Alright. Hello, everyone. So, I'm Stephen Nabilo, as usual, and today we're going to be discussing nanotechnology. We'll be talking about the very cool things that you can do with nanotech, as well as 3D printing, and we're going to be applying these in particular to the context of the medical field. So, with nanotechnology, we need to actually define what that is first. And basically, the idea is that nanotechnology refers to the science of materials at the nanoscale. So, a nanometer is 10 to the minus 9 meters, or a billionth of a meter. You can think of this as, if you compare this to a hydrogen atom, a nanometer is only about 10 times bigger than that of a hydrogen atom. So it is quite small, but there are some extremely powerful things that you can do with nanotechnology. So when you're working with materials and compounds at the nanoscale, the chemistry behaves differently. As a result, because the chemistry is so different, we can have different tensile strengths, we can have different electric conductivity, and we can have different physics even, or different diversification of the population of cells or something like that. And with these differences in chemistry, we're actually able to utilize that to create materials that are significantly stronger than what we currently have access to. So the carbon fiber, for instance, is 6 times lighter than steel, but it's also 100 times stronger than steel. And it's actually one of the reasons why a lot of high-performance supercars use carbon fiber, because it is significantly lighter than standard steel or aluminum chassis. And in regards to medicine in particular, there are a few different applications for nanotechnology in medicine. First of all, there are 2 different ways that you can actually utilize whenever you are creating stuff using nanotechnology. You can either use a top-down approach, which uses macro or micro processes to create products or produce effects at the nano level. This also may use remote processes like ion beams, for instance. You can also use a bottom-up approach where you actually go down to the nanoscale itself, and then you put the pieces together at the nanoscale to create something slightly bigger. And that is typically a much more difficult way to do it, but if you need something with a bit more precision, you can do that as well. So in terms of the medical field, for instance, there are several applications for nanotechnology. Some of these include things such as creating synthetic hollow organs, basically blood vessels and airways. You can create orthopedic implants. You can create dermal gaps if you need to. The list is pretty much endless in terms of what you're able to do with nanotechnology in medicine. Of course, there are some concerns. Nanotechnology allows us to create things that have their own unique structure and quirks associated with them. So, for instance, nanotechnology can be toxic to human beings. And also, because everything is on the nanoscale, it's possible that nanotechnology used in a terrorist sort of way could be a very real danger, especially into the future. And, of course, nanotechnology being able to self-replicate without control is another concern. That latter concern is, I think, more so comes from science fiction, if you want to think of it like that. But it's a fast-growing area, and unfortunately, we may not be focusing on passing legislation nearly fast enough in order to actually be able to get something out of nanotechnology that is beneficial for society while simultaneously restricting it so that way we don't accidentally cause irreparable harm to humanity. Now, a similar part to or aspect to 3D to nanotechnology is something called 3D printing. So a lot of people are probably very familiar with this already. But basically, it is a technology that allows for the construction of three-dimensional objects using extremely thin layers of raw material. So it's similar, but it's not quite the same thing as nanotech because it deals with because the fibers that you use in 3D printing are typically a little bit bigger than nanometers. And the object to be printed could be virtually anything that you need. Excuse me. It could be things like circuit boards, it could be game pieces, car parts. The list is virtually endless if you need. And there are several different types or methods of 3D printing. Some of these are vat photopolymerization, material jetting or inkjet technology, material extrusion. These are just some of the names that are listed here. There are other names as well. So, in particular, in regards to medicine, there are a few different methods for printing because obviously medicine and synthetic organs and stuff like that—that's a totally different area. So you need a totally different form of printing. You're able to print orodispersal films, ODFs, which are very similar to those Listerine strips that you put in your mouth for to give you fresh breath. And there are also other forms of printing, but bear in mind that there are some forms of printing that are not applicable to every area of medicine. So, for example, selective laser sintering is not typically used for drug formulations because the high-energy laser has a chance to actually degrade the drug in the long run. And so with that, I have finished. Thank you for your time.